It's like watching your own kid in a movie and you realize that he's terrible and there's not anything.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Share.
Hello, Governor.
Oh, no.
Oh,
You
no.
put the British in there.
Oh, no. Now everybody hates us.
I'm on topic today, baby.
There's going to be a lot of that.
And this is just before we're about to pimp a merch sale. You just pissed off.
That'll be a new T-shirt.
Yep. But yeah, hey, we have a merch sale coming up.
Yeah,
We
baby.
do. And you can save money. Now, most of our merch is going away, discontinued, as in if you had your eye on anything over the years, we're discounting everything now and moving it out so we can bring in some new shit. And I've got my eye on a white, this guy would be great at Cinemasins hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get one of those before they close out. And I really, really like this black apple shirt, the pair of apples, what you see and what I see. I've already got two of those, so I'm not going to buy any more right now. Anyway, there are severe discounts on this merch, and get on it, right?
Yes, there's severe discounts on merch right now, and then there's going to be even more discounts to come. So get going on it. Make sure you get them. The new stuff, by the way, is going to be killer. But there's some stuff on there right now that is really, really cool. It's very exciting. So support the team. Fly the flag. I don't know. Get your merch. Get your stuff.
You can go to cinemasins.com and click the click the store link.
Yep.
Or you can just go to teespring.com/stores/cinemasins-store. I shouldn't have given out that whole link. That was a disaster. I read it correctly, though. So if you want to type it all in, you're game.
And the other thing you can do
to go to the site.
Yeah. And the other thing you can do is any of our videos, right below the video, it's got a little shelf,
Correct.
as I call them, of Teespring merch, Cinemasins merch. So if you click on that, it'll take you to the site and you can browse on there too. So there's a lot of different ways to get there. Get there, get it done, get your
shirt on.
Yeah.
Get your merch on.
If only there were visuals that we could show to the people.
I just did a dance.
He did. It's been a while since we have done this kind of topic. We're going to be driving on the left side of the road this time. We're going to be doing our road trip for England itself.
On the road again. The most time-honored tradition of all, the road trip. Oh, the places you'll go.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Not Scotland or Ireland, because fuck you guys. No,
maybe not even England, right? Aren't we just doing London?
Pretty much. Look, so we had the idea to, because we all do love British movies. We've watched a lot of them over the years. And so we had this idea to let's take the road trip across the pond and do some British stuff. And when I looked at the breadth of the movies that we had seen or been familiar with, I kept it to mostly the major cities, particularly London, and a few exceptions. But it's a lot of stuff. We can branch out later on. If you don't have your favorite British movie on there, I apologize. We'll get to it.
And instead of a road trip, this is a boat trip, which is also a Cuba Gooding Jr. Horatio Sands movie.
It is indeed.
With a 7% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's about homosexuals, right?
Yes. They end up accidentally on a gay cruise. And they pretend to be gay, but goddamn. That was so much almost sexual.
Well, I questioned myself midway through it.
Oh God. Oh, you shouldn't watch that movie. I did. I built a copy of it, and it's not good.
I don't remember if I saw that or not, but I remember this being the movie that everybody was like, how did Cuba Gooding Jr. win an Oscar and then go on to do this?
6 years later. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, weird. So yeah, just London for now, because you know there's a lot of movies. And we may not even get through this in the.
We may not.
Yeah.
So there are a lot to get through. The first one on the list is 24-Hour Party People, which I've never seen, but it appears to be a Michael Winterbottom, Steve Coogan joint. They worked with each other a lot.
Yeah.
Did you ever see this, Spirit?
I saw this at the Belcourt, man.
Nice.
This is so we're starting out by literally cheating. This is in Manchester, which is just north of London. This is based on a true story. This is Steve Coogan is playing Tony Wilson, who ended up being the, I don't know, progenitor of the whole new wave movement with Factory Records. He produced and founded or basically kind of boosted. It was Joy Division and New Order. New Order became New Order after Ian Curtis, who's played by Sean Harris in the movie, bearded psychopath from
the Fallout, Ethan, the Fallout.
Yeah. He plays Ian Curtis. Ian Curtis tragically hung himself, and Joy Division then became New Order. And so he's responsible for like this really big movement of musicians and bands in the 80s and the late 70s in England, and his whole thing fell apart because he was having such a good time. He never signed anybody to anything. And
really?
So when the other labels came along to poach them or to make money, he never made a dime. But he's got the memories. He's got a great cast. Andy Serkis is in this. Patty Considine is in this. Sean Harris and Simon Pegg and Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah, I remember this coming out. I didn't know it was about that though. I didn't know that it was about those bands.
It's a really good movie.
I might have seen it earlier.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. Steve Coogan isn't as wild, crazy. Not that he's always wild and crazy, but he's not overtly humorous in this. He's playing more of like a straightforward character, but it's really, really good.
I always confused it with the title with that Macaulay Culkin.
Me too.
Where's a diaper movie or whatever that movie is?
Yeah. God, what is that called?
It's Party something.
Yeah, it is.
Party Monster.
I did
Party Monster.
Yeah, Party Monster. I did the same thing when I first saw that. I was like, oh yeah, that Macaulay Culkin movie. But yeah.
Doesn't he wear a diaper in that movie? Am I crazy?
I think he does.
Jeremy, like if you remember
the movie,
if you're remembering Macaulay Culkin wearing a diaper in a movie, I'm almost certain it's in that movie.
I'm gonna look it up. We keep talking.
Okay. On to the next one. 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later are both based in there. Of course, right off the bat in 28 Days Later, it's Cillian Murphy walking through an empty London. It's eerie as fuck when he's walking through there.
And we just simmed this movie.
We did. I had forgotten. I wasn't on the sim script for this, but I had forgotten that Danny Boyle directed this with that video quality.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had forgotten all about that.
Which is blurry as fuck, by the way.
Yeah. But this sort of I'm not a zombie movie expert. I've seen plenty of them, but this was one of those that sort of got zombies back on the map. Because even though they're not zombies and they never say zombies in the movie, I don't think.
No, they're infected.
Yeah, they're infected. It was the first time we had seen zombies sort of fast instead of doing that slow lumbering thing. Yeah, and it's fucking scary as hell, man.
Yeah. And it's a perfectly fine movie. In fact, I would say it's a great movie up until the very end. That scene that you're talking about, where he's wandering around Piccadilly Circus in central London, which they went to great pains to actually shoot practically. We've talked about before. And the Godspeed You Black Emperor song playing in the background is just absolutely magical. The grocery store scene is absolutely magical, which was ripped off by Bird Box and like every other movie, like Zombieland and all that bullshit. But then, as we've talked about before, I think it's difficult for Danny Boyle to stick an ending, and this ending is hot garbage, man. From the time that they walk into the military complex, which is a good 25 minutes, it's objectively terrible, and it almost ruins the movie for me. But I love that first 3/4.
This is one of those prints at Hollywood 27 that I'll remember. I don't know what was going on. Sometimes you just get a print that's cursed, and that print just kept throwing off of platters during runs, and like it just nothing we did could fix it. Like, you know, just once a print gets to a point where it's been thrown, it wants to throw the rest of its time. And they even did something later where they gave us a new reel. At a fifth reel or something like that, where like they changed something. I can't remember what they changed in the original version, where we had to put on a new reel at the end of it. I cannot remember what that was, but we had to do that to that print too. I think we ended up probably having to order a whole new print because that thing just kept throwing off.
Why does it? How does it get predisposed to throw again? You mean throwing off the actual...
Because of demons?
Thing.
Yeah,
demons and dark magic.
You have a variety of things that happen where if you... First off, platter speed. If the platter speed isn't right, then you have the arm... Then this is going to be impossible for most of you to even imagine, but the brain inside the middle of the platter is like controlling the speed. And so like if it's off... then that arm controls the speed and it keeps going slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast. If it does that a bunch, then you have a predisposition to have a print slide on the platter as it goes back and forth. And then eventually it gets to the point where the weight of the film is light enough that it throws it off the platter. And then you have other situations where the print gets damaged. So like we had a projector at Hollywood that would you would see the sprocket holes like expand once it would get done. So like the movie that you'd put on there, the very first run would be like a quarter bigger when you got back to like to thread it the next time because everything was like expanded and everything. Once a print gets loose, that's where it really starts getting to the point of the brain is trying to keep up with what's going through it. And if it's particularly bad, then the speed will change back and forth and start causing it over and over. And once a print's thrown, that's where you start getting all that.
I had a trainee management train. This was before I met you, before I moved down here, who oiled the platter.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Because he thought, I don't know what went through his brain, but he thought this is how you clean this.
Oh God.
And it was like, we basically had to get the platter replaced because we couldn't like scuff it enough to like unslick that thing. And it was basically, we had to use 2 platters and skip that third platter for like 3 months until they brought us a new.
You know what we ended up doing towards the end of 35 millimeter was anytime I got the chance and the approval to go to Home Depot, because the our technician put on that on a couple of them that used to do it all the time. She put like that stuff that you put on stairways so that when you're walking down steps, it's that non-slick thing or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And so we put that on the platters, and so there were a couple that had it, but it wasn't like we'd still have projectors that would do it. So every time I got a chance, when I got to Home Depot, I bought more of that stuff and put it on every platter we had, and no more throws at that point.
There you
go. So anyway, the move that 28 Days Later is then obviously has a sequel 28 Weeks Later. I don't know what people generally think of 28 Weeks Later. I loved 28 Weeks Later.
Is this the one in the mall?
No, this is the one where you have the kids. Imogen Poots this is the first time I ever saw her. Imogen Poots and her brother, I think, run away from their home. Like their dad gets infected, and then they go to this like CDC place, like a facility of some sort, where either their dad or their mom is being held. I haven't seen it in forever, and Rose Byrne plays like a nurse or a military something, whatever. Jeremy Renner's in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's mainly around that facility the whole time, if I'm remembering correct.
Yeah,
I saw it. I just don't remember anything about it.
I don't either.
It's NATO taking control of the whole situation now that the infected are starving. But the hitch in this one, which is not very comforting given our current situation, is that there's asymptomatic carriers like Imogen Poots, who has the virus, but she's asymptomatic and she can transmit it to other people. So it's less of a straightforward zombie movie like 28 Days Later is, and more of like a global, this is how, like more of a contagion type of thing.
I remember it being good, but yeah, it's been since it came out, probably since I saw it. Then we have About a Boy. That movie is London as fuck.
About a boy.
Based off the Nick Hornby novel. And you had the Whites brothers, American Pie, directors on this one. Hugh Grant, and I don't know if this was the first Nicholas Hoult movie. This might have been an introducing, but he's the boy in About a Boy.
Oh,
and the only thing I really remember about this movie is him with his headphones, listening to that "Shake Your Ass" song. Isn't that what? Isn't that in About a Boy? A mystical song, and he falls in love with that one girl, and he's like, it's a song by Mystico, and shake your ass, watch yourself, all that.
His mom is a wreck, man. I think his mom is Toni Collette, and she is severely mentally ill, and so he wants to do the kid wants to get them together, but of course, Hugh Grant being Hugh Grant, he falls for Rachel Weisz. And so that happens. I love this movie. I think this movie was charming. It's got a great soundtrack, ironically by a band called Badly Drawn Boy.
I remember them.
That was one of my favorite bands of the 2000s. It's really, really good. It's totally worth watching, I believe.
I don't hear a lot about it today, but it seemed like during that last decade, that was always brought up as a movie that people really loved. Like that was, but I don't hear about that much now, but I think it still holds up, right?
Oh, it totally does. And they did a TV show adaptation of it. I don't know how long it lasted, but you're right. I mean, I think it's very much like Hornby's one of his other novels, High Fidelity, in that it's men behaving badly until something grabs them by the shoulders and shakes them out of it. And maybe Hugh Grant there's a scene at the beginning that always reminds me, because he does nothing. Like his dad wrote a hit song, and so he's spoiled and rich and has literally nothing to do with his life. And so he's like, in the morning around 10 a.m. when I wake up, I get my hair expertly messed up to where it looks like it's perfectly mussed. And I'm like, fuck you, dude.
All right. On to, I know a movie that Jeremy is fond of, and I have since seen it. It's great. About Time.
About Time.
Donald Gleason and Rachel McAdams. Now this came out in 2013, so I was just out of movie theaters at this point. I don't think this was a big hit, but it seems like people have found it, because it's a 7.8 on IMDb. It has a pretty good amount of votes on it too. It is really good. Donald Gleason, Rachel McAdams, Bill Nighy. This is a great movie. If
you tell me that you have a romantic comedy time travel movie, I am already tuned out, right?
Yeah.
Like The Time Traveler's Wife, or even
which also had Rachel McAdams,
which is it does, or even is it not Fahrenheit? Frequency, which isn't a romantic movie, but it's still a time travel father-son movie. I just like the idea. The description sounds terrible, but this works both as a romantic comedy and as a father-son movie. I think it packs more punch as a father-son movie. I cannot watch it. It's one of the few movies that makes me bawl at the end, just bawl. That the last moment they get to spend together, they go back to this memory of running on the beach. God, I'm going to cry talking about it right now.
I know.
But Bill Nye is also really funny. He's as funny as he is touching. All the ping pong shit where he's like, I'm so much better without the ball. And like the toast he gives as the best man at the wedding. The way the movie uses time travel to both do humor, like who should your best man be? And he goes through with each of them and they all give terrible toasts and he ends up choosing his father going back in time. But the time travel also can punch you in the gut. Like when he goes back to save his sister from that accident and it changes which fucking kid he has in the future when he comes back. And God, the movie just has so many different ways to absorb it and to think about it and sit on it. And I really, really, really recommend it.
Yeah. It's fine. I'm not trying to be punny here, but it is about time that some time travel movie actually showed the consequences of doing something even slightly different from what happened earlier and everything. And that's something that that really appeals to me, because I know in a movie you don't want to get too complex or else you lose your audience. But I feel like they do this in a perfectly good way. I mean, there's a point where he talks to his dad and he's like, yes, it has to be the same sperm, the same egg, or else it's not going to be the same kid. And that's exactly right. Yeah. And so like so many other movies, and I hold Back to the Future in high regard, but you know, Marty has officially changed everything about the world by his mere presence in that movie. But they relegate it to, well, as long as a couple of key things, the same things happen, then everything is okay. We're back to normal and everything. And I'm sorry to say, no, it's not what's going to happen. The next one on this list is something that came out, I guess, last year or maybe the beginning part of this year. I can't remember. The Aeronauts. Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones reigniting that theory of everything team up, I guess. But I never saw this. Did you guys see it?
Yeah, I saw it. It's a good movie. Tom Harper directed it. I thought I remembered him doing something else. Oh, he does Peaky Blinders is his big thing.
Okay.
So it's very, very Londony. This movie has some beautiful shots in it. It's about a scientist in Victorian England that wants to study the air before anybody really knows about atmosphere and the layers of the atmosphere and stuff like that. And it's about a woman, Felicity Jones, who's a pilot, who's a balloonist. And together they build this weather balloon, and they want to go up way farther than anyone in the history of people have ever gone. Obviously, this is before any sort of air travel whatsoever. And she's the badass that can take care of the balloon. He's the scientist. It's very Newt Scamander, except not as kind of socially awkward. And it's good. It's been compared to Gravity a lot because there's a lot of like death-defying stuff. They're up in the air. They don't know how to get down. But man, there's a lot of talky bullshit that like a lot of like, boy, my husband sure did die. And like he's like, well, I've had death too. I've experienced hunger and shit. And it's like, there's too much of that. And if they had cut down on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's like that Seinfeld where George is wanting to get fired and he's like, I want to get it to where people say, man, that guy got canned.
But it's on Amazon. Felicity Jones is a delight. Eddie Redmayne is a good performance. I'll tell you who I've got my eye on is this Hamish Patel, who plays one of the collaborators with Eddie Redmayne, and who was the lead person in Yesterday. I think he's got some chops, man. I like that guy a lot.
All right, the next one on here is Ali G into House.
Fuck this.
I'm trying to remember. I think I've seen this. And if I don't remember, does this have, is this hit or miss and mostly miss?
Yes. It's pre-Borat, so it's Sacha Baron Cohen.
Right.
It's pre-Borat to where I think the stunts and the interviews and stuff like that are staged. I don't think they're real like they are in Borat and then some in Bruno. And it's got, a bunch of people that are in on the joke. I just don't like the joke. I've never liked this character. I actually think Borat is hilarious, but I've never liked this character. He has done on the BBC, I guess and HBO has tricked a lot of people hilariously. Yeah. But that's also just not kind of my type of humor. And I don't like
I'm
that
the same
character.
way.
Yeah.
Especially when you dress it up as a character that, specifically makes the person they're roasting go, well, his English is a little broken. I'm going to give him more rope than I would. You know what I mean? Like it's a double setup to play a character. He's not just playing a stupid character. He's playing a stupid character that's not American. Anyway, I don't like this. It's like the same kind of thing Tom Green used to be, where, it just feels like, at least with Borat, and again, I saw the Ali G show on HBO. I never saw this movie. But at least with Borat, to me, it felt like he went after people that were sort of asking for it.
What's so good about something like Borat is that he plays this character and he makes people comfortable saying what's on in their hearts, and it exposes them.
Yes.
I don't even think you could call it gotcha. It's just, he's just kind of like, I'm going to be this way. Feel free to say whatever's in your heart. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
I didn't see much Ali G show when it was on HBO. But I think I saw this movie a long time ago, but I remember it being like, oh, that's funny. Oh, that's really, really not funny. And then it'd be really, really not funny for a while. And then there'd be some other good bit that would show up. And so anyway, on to Attack the Block.
Yeah.
Ooh, this one's good, bloke.
Yeah, it's John Boyega. I don't know if this was his debut, but he was pretty young in this. He was 17 or 18 when Attack the Block came out, I think, something like that. This was my first introduction into Jodie Whittaker too. Really like Jodie Whittaker. But yeah, aliens come down, and this is what real people have to deal with when the aliens come down. Where like most alien invasion movies are about that military guy or that scientist or whatever. It's like all the most important people are dealing with the alien thing. But this one is like real, like citizens of a city trying to deal with aliens,
and they're criminals too.
Well, yeah, they're criminals.
So they're not only like, regular dudes, they're also dudes that have like already, it starts off with them mugging that girl, Whittaker, right? Like they mug her and
they end up having to work together by the end of it. Yeah.
This movie caught me by surprise, man. It's London as hell, but it's really, really
London.
fun. Yeah. Very, you're right. Yeah. Like a very specific accent.
Well, he's from it's his natural. It's where he grew up. There's a name for it. I think it starts with B. But it's a very, very, very specific London accent that I'm not going to try and do. And I only saw this movie once, but I remember really liking it.
Yeah, it's really good. I can't remember did we get this at Hollywood 27? I remember doing trailers for this, but I don't think we ever got it.
Isn't this the one where they say bruv all the time?
Yeah.
Bruv.
And cuz, and is it cuz or bruh? I think it might be, or fam. They say fam a lot.
I think they do, yes.
Yeah. but yeah, it's a good movie. Let's see. On to Austin Powers, the trilogy of Austin Powers.
See, this is my jam, man. Like, even though it's silly comedy and there's some jokes that are just stupid, like even for me, stupid. Mike Myers has always been kind of in my wheelhouse. And contrary to what I said before we started this about Wayne's World 2, I don't think Spy Who Shagged Me really hit the same notes as the first one. Is in like really repeating itself. And Goldmember has its flaws, a lot of flaws, but it's still definitely not the same as the previous two movies. And I think they're all funny on their own merit.
This is one of the most interesting franchises of all time for me, just because I was in Illinois working at a theater when the first one came out, and it wasn't a flop. It made $67 million, but it wasn't a hit by any means. And then it was the video store where this thing found its footing, to where when the second one came out and I was at Hollywood with Chris, it made like $400 million.
Yeah. I remember it came out that's in 99, summer of 99. It came out the same summer as Phantom Menace. Yeah. And like, I remember seeing the trailer for The Spy Who Shagged Me on just about everything that we had. And, it was like, 'cause I put the gear and swinger, baby, and all that. and like, yeah, it was a huge hit. It was an unbelievably huge hit.
Yeah, it looks like 312 million. I overshot my estimate there, but
still a lot.
Back in 99, that was a shit ton of money.
Yeah, still a lot. And but yeah, a really big hit. It had that really fun. It was Goldmember that had the opening with Tom Cruise, and or was it the second one?
I think it was the second one, wasn't it?
See, I don't really.
No. You're right. You're right. It is the third one that has.
Of course, I'm right. No, I'm just kidding. no,
because the first one is more like, yeah, it opens with Elizabeth Hurley turning into a fembot, and then it goes into the Jerry Springer thing with Dr. Evil and Scott and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're right. So, but yeah, it's so much fun. Will Ferrell comes into this one. Do it with a hilarious cameo where he falls down the thing and he's like, I think I have badly broken my leg. I will try to stand up on it. Crack. Oh, it is now protruding through the skin and smells of almonds.
That whole thing too, where like he can't be asked a question 3 times because it's so annoying, and that's when he'll answer. Yeah. And he's like, come on, man, why don't we just cut straight to it and just answer? He's like, I cannot be asked the same question 3 times in a row. It's very annoying. And there's a point where they ask him one question and they ask him 2 of a different question, and he goes, oh, come on, man, that was the 3rd question. And he goes, no, in the first question you asked was
it has to be in a series of 3. Oh my god,
man. Yeah, I was surprised too. The first one had its moments, and I thought it was, basically, okay, there's a goofy comedy that people are going to just kind of, dismiss, and it's had its day. And then, yeah, the video thing, like Jeremy's saying, just really shot this up to where Spy Who Shagged Me became that huge hit over the summer. Yeah, these movies are funny. I don't like Goldmember that much, but I do like Michael Caine in there. I think Michael Caine's a great addition. I thought that was funny that they got the two kids to play the younger versions of Austin Powers and Dr. Evil during the graduation thing, and they both are like perfect. They're perfect in those roles, like those kids who are playing the younger versions.
Yeah.
But Michael Caine's line too, where it's like, where he's like, there are 2 people in this earth that I don't like: people who don't have respect for other people's cultures, and the Dutch.
Oh, it's so great.
It's my favorite.
It's one of my favorite. Oh, he's the best.
Yeah.
I thought, I think Goldmember himself is a little bit one note, is very one note actually.
Yeah.
But that note when it first starts is really funny.
Yeah. I love gold.
This is one of Beyonce's first movies, actually, is Foxy Cleopatra.
Yeah.
Well, that movie, Goldmember, made $296 million. It was just a shade off of what the second one made, and I'm honestly surprised they haven't gone back to that wheelhouse since.
Yeah, they who knows what happened after that. I know that they had been talking about a fourth one for a really long time. I've heard talk about a fourth one probably like it was just a few years after the third one. And then I heard it resurrected another time at some point last decade, but I don't know where it went. There was a point where he was supposed to do that Sprockets movie, and he decided not to do it, and there was a whole legal mess around that. And he did, and he also, his star wilted because he did stuff like Love Guru and View from the Top and Studio 54 and all these movies that really kind of dropped him a little bit. So I don't know what happened with that. They just may not have a story to tell anymore. You have 3 of these things. You've told every joke that you can tell about James Bond, essentially. But
maybe what you could do at this point, not that I'm like trying to give Mike Myers ideas, but now he could do the Michael Caine thing, and he could have a son who's getting into the spy thing, and he could maybe even take a step back. And
he could also still play. He could also still play villains and everything, like multiple characters, like he always does.
It could be him and Dr. Evil at the nursing home, like getting into hijinks. Man, that shit would be funny.
Dude, Dr. Evil in this franchise does have some of the best lines that you'll ever hear.
That's the best character in the whole franchise.
I mean, the whole, like, why can't we get frickin' sharks with frickin' laser beams on there? And he's like, well, all we could do is sea bass. And he's like, are they ill-tempered?
And a voice that he patterned after Lorne Michaels is another.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
Yes, the shitty 1998 Avengers movie also set in London. Yes,
that's all we have to say about that.
Yeah, that movie's terrible. I don't know why it failed so spectacularly, where they went wrong in the script phase or whatever, but they were trying to resurrect a show that very few people had seen here. I think at least, I don't know, 20 years it had been off the air, and it was mainly a BBC staple.
Right.
So
it's half a movie. And from what the reviews that I was reading about it when we did it, is it's literally half a movie. There was a lot more shot. There was a lot more that was supposed to be in there. But I don't know if it was the studio. It must have been the studio or the director that just said, you know what, we've got to keep this down to under an hour 40 or something like that. And there's just so much stuff that just doesn't make sense. Like, it's not well shot at all, but it just doesn't make any sense.
Wasn't this a big summer tentpole release, Chris?
I don't remember. I think it was, but I don't remember. I'm going to look up the.
I feel like they had high hopes for this thing
because
it was August of '98.
Yeah. So, and what day? August? What week 14th. In August? Yeah, that's typically your last gasp in the summer is that second week in August. It signals to me that they didn't think it had that much of a chance, or else they would have come out with it in June or July. But everything went wrong with that movie. The next one on our list is Bend It Like Beckham.
You know what? Somebody pointed out in the comments on the podcast that there's a love triangle for Keira Knightley in Bend It Like Beckham, because she and her friend both fall in love with Dude Man Coach Guy.
Yeah.
Remember when I was saying Keira Knightley has a bunch of adultery and love?
Oh, is it Jonathan Rhys Meyers that is?
Jonathan Rhys Meyers.
Yeah, so somebody pointed out this movie belongs on that list as well, and I'm very, very happy.
But she's like 16 or 17.
Shut up! It fits. It works. Shut up! It fits. But this was Keira Knightley's big. Hello, I'm here. I'm an actress. I'm not just Natalie Portman's stand-in.
Yes, this was the first movie I had seen Keira Knightley in, and then Pirates of the Caribbean came out right after that. So she was set to go to superstardom at that point. But But yeah, I haven't seen it since 2002. So, I know it's about, is it about a women's soccer team, or is it about women on a guy's soccer team? I can't remember.
No, I think it's just about coming of age.
Yeah, well, it's the Jess character, the Indian character, who's a Sikh, and her parents are very against any sporting event, and she falls in love with soccer, and apparently she's very good at it, and she and Keira Knightley, being the top players in that team, win the championship, and she's super proud. She gets a scholarship and all that stuff, but her family is not really supportive, and because of all their religious and cultural beliefs, it doesn't work. So yeah, it's coming of age essentially, but in a specific context. Even though they're in London, it's a Sikh family originally from India. So
isn't that pronounced Sikh?
Sikh or Sikh? I've heard it both ways.
Okay,
I do know that I didn't understand the title. I knew who David Beckham was. But I don't watch enough football to know that slang of bend it means, to put some, action on the ball so that it curves after you kick it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a killer roll credits moment in this movie where Keira Knightley literally says she wants to bend it like Beckham.
Yeah.
And I remember that was where it clicked for me. And I was like, oh, I get it now. Like it's a soccer thing. Anyway.
Well, yeah. And that was what he was known for mainly as a player, was being able to do those set plays and kicking a ball where, it had that wicked curve to it and everything. I'm not even sure how good of a player he was outside of those set plays.
I'm not either, but that's what he's definitely known for sure.
Yeah,
well, he's known for Victoria.
Well, sure. He's known for that too.
All things being equal, he is much more famous than she is. Worldwide.
Well, yeah, these days, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Anybody see the BFG? I have not seen the BFG.
No, but I made a sin referencing it because it looked like a lot of recent child monster movies.
Yeah.
Didn't Spielberg produced this?
Spielberg directed this.
Oh, my God.
I didn't see that. This is one of this has got to be the only Spielberg I have not seen in the last 30 years.
Wow. That tells you about how good it looked on the preview.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I can't remember why I never got around to this one, but this was also one of those years where I think it was one of those years where he did like 2 movies in one year. He does that a lot. But I can't remember if this was the War Horse year. I think the War Horse year he did that the Adventures of Tintin movie. And BFG, I'm not sure. I don't know if he did something else that year. But anyway.
No, looks like that's the only one that he directed that year.
Okay, Mark Rylance is a giant. Animated giant. Every time I see BFG, my mind reverts to Doom and the big fucking gun and all that.
Yep.
So I BFG. I was like, wow, that's kind of racy for kids. Oh, it's a. Well, I don't even remember what the F stands for. It's a big friendly giant.
Big friendly giant.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. But I every time I see the BFG, I'm like, oh, a big fucking giant.
I think big fucking, and then my brain breaks. I'm like, oh, gee, I don't know what to do with that.
A movie that we hold dear in our hearts. It was the last movie we saw in theaters. Bloodshot.
Yep. That's where he goes to pick up your boy from game night. is in London.
Yeah.
That may be the last movie we ever see in theaters is Bloodshot.
It might be.
Oh man, that's a rough one.
Yeah, Vin Diesel is a guy who, I guess they can. What is the deal? I have already forgotten.
He's got nanites. He gets blowed up in Iraq or something.
He can keep coming back. They keep putting different memories in him.
Yeah.
They replace his blood with
memories, but like they take out the ones that matter so that he doesn't go off and accidentally run into his wife and his screaming kid, and
who annoyingly says, "Mom."
Mom, just a fucking minute, kid. She's talking. God.
Yeah. Sometimes just because it happens doesn't mean you need to put it in your movie. Just because it's real doesn't make it right.
Oh my God. They have that like Red Shoe Diaries affair at the beginning of the movie, man. He gets back from terrorist, and like he gets back and they're just like fucking like with gauze and muslin and like
what I love is when they're done, she puts her sexy underwear back on. Just the bottoms.
Yeah. Right.
Because that's what always happens after sex.
Indeed.
How do you do it?
I put her bottoms on and she puts
don't other people. Okay, I'm gonna stop now.
Yeah.
I'm saying you go do things, you clean, you either get your dressed again or you don't get dressed. You stay naked, you cuddle. What do you got to put one single pair of underpants on for? Why are you making that face?
I'm trying not to say what I was going to say.
Okay, don't say it. I think everybody knows what you're going to say anyway, but don't say it. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Move
on.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
This movie.
Yeah, a movie that we do not like here at all.
Also starring Mike Myers.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's in a little cameo where he's referencing Wayne's World. Yeah, I just don't like movies like this. I don't like biopics that just, it's the name of it's Bohemian Rhapsody. Where it really shines for me is when they're doing the recording of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
And if they could have done more stuff like that and touched on more, I don't know, more interesting aspects of this story than what they did.
Or even the music itself. Every musical song where they come up with We Will Rock You, another one Bites the Dust, like all these classic hits that are just coming out of nowhere. Even Fat Bottom Girls or I'm in Love with My Car and like stuff like that. Like just those little one-off things, these little mentions. That's the good stuff. I don't know how they could. What they probably did was screen it for test audiences, and they were like, maybe focus more on the band. And I bet test audiences were like, well, what about Freddie? Didn't he die of AIDS? Like, I want to know more about him.
Because test audiences are notoriously stupid.
Oh God.
Yeah, I don't know. I was interested in the story behind a lot of songs in this, and I was interested in more of them as a dynamic as a band, and they made up a lot of shit that happened in this, and so like I start losing interest in this type of thing, and I know that songs are what a lot of times people are like, oh, that was a good movie. It's like, well, the songs are good. That doesn't make the movie good. What was it? That's why I feel like Jennifer Hudson has an Oscar, is because she belted out, I'm telling you that I'm not going and all that. She belted that out so hard that she got the Oscar for singing.
Mm-hmm.
And
so did Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, for Anne Hathaway, definitely. Les Miserables, that's the best singing that you'll hear. But yeah, I mean the songs are great, but the movie, it left me cold. I like Rami Malek in it. I think he was perfectly good as Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Have you guys seen this recently, by the way?
I had it on in the background the other day.
Oh no.
This movie is fucking insane, man.
Yes, it is.
I had not seen it since it came out.
Oh, really?
And the other day I popped it in. It was in the background. Now, this movie in the background is probably even more insane, because you just look up and there's just random images in this movie just don't make any sense.
Like Gary Oldman climbing on the walls like a spider.
Yeah. Yeah. And like there's that sex scene where you have Monica Bellucci and like a whole bunch of and like Gary Oldman comes in and he's pissed off because he's like Jonathan Harker is mine, and so like all these women who are about to orgyize Keanu Reeves in this movie, are like, there's a point where two of them get on like top of each other, and like one of them stilt legs out of the. It's just a weird scene, man.
Now I want to watch it, man. Just telling me.
And Keanu looks so confused about this impending orgy. He's like, "What is this orgy?"
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, "Where did you guys go?" Okay.
Yeah, might as well let it happen. That's the thing. Like, just sheer having it in the background, I was like, now I need to sit down and watch this movie again because there's so much insane in it. I must watch it now, beginning to end. I'll have to find time for it, but yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it. But one thing that it reinforced, one thing that I did notice about this movie, this is what we talk about when there's movies that Keanu Reeves shouldn't be in.
Absolutely.
This is not his speed.
Nope.
Whenever you put him in a historical drama, whether it's this or Much Ado About Nothing or Dangerous Liaisons, that's not his thing at all. And he always comes off terrible in these movies. And he's definitely pretty bad in this Bram Stoker's Dracula. So
that accent is the most abysmal English. You think my accent, when I try to do it on SinCast, is bad? It's better than Canoe's back in 1992. I'll tell you that much.
So like this is one of those things where you hate it because you love Keanu Reeves, right? Like we basically love Keanu Reeves. It's like watching your own kid in a movie and you realize that he's terrible and there's not anything.
No, this is an objectively. So Gary Oldman gives a great performance in probably like 6 different iterations of Dracula. Because he's immortal, of course. He's got the old one with the big pompadour, and then he's got the younger one when he's a man about town. And he's looking for his lost love, who he thinks is Winona Ryder's character reincarnated. Mm-hmm. And
she doesn't come off very good in this movie either, while we're talking about performances that are shaky. Just FYI.
Yeah, you're right. It's also, it's I think she's overshadowed by how bad Canoe is.
I think you're right. Yes,
but yeah, no. I mean, it's Francis Ford Coppola, by the way, and Anthony Hopkins plays Van Helsing, by the way, the guy who's supposed to overpower the most immortal, powerful vampire ever. He's already in his 70s or something like that at this point.
Yeah.
But it's a very watchable movie. Tom Waits plays Renfield, the asylum guy. And I always enjoy watching it. The colors are gorgeous. It's the last watchable Coppola movie to me.
Yeah, I'm like I said, though, I think this is something that demands a watch again. After, like I said, watching it the way I did, where it was just kind of like you just look up and you're like, what the fuck? It's something that I'm going to have to end up watching it. Because, yes, one of the things that was introduced into this that was so fucking eerie is that where you would see Oldman walking in a direction and his shadow would go in a different direction.
Yeah.
And it was something that, and of course, The Simpsons masterfully did this whole movie basically in one of the Halloween specials. But yeah, there's a lot of just stuff that's very off kilter in this, and definitely a different Dracula than you've ever seen. And before or since,
it's a sexy Dracula. I mean, even he's old man Dracula at some point, but the whole movie is very sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Dracula was sexy in Dracula 2000. I don't know why you're just skipping that shit.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. Dracula 2000 had that Linkin Park song during the credits. I remember.
Wasn't he also a character in the third Blade movie? Wasn't Dracula in that movie?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, there was some mention about Dracula in one of the Blade movies.
He's in the movie, man. I think Blade fights Dracula in this movie. Am I crazy?
Yes. No, I mean, yes, you're crazy, but also, yes, I think you're right.
I have a sister who says it's crazy to eat meat. Is she crazy?
Yeah. Blade versus Dracula got a bunch of video listings. I'm going to assume I'm right.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right, everybody, it's time to talk about BetterHelp.
Better
Better help.
That's how you schedule your appointments. You look up to the sky and you say, better help.
Yeah, you lift your mighty hammer and you call down the therapy lightning.
Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm,
Look, hey, guys, we're still in this. We're still in this all together. There's a global pandemic, and it's not only a pandemic of a virus. What we've been discovering, what we've been hearing about in articles and in papers and everything is the mental toll that this is taking on people, not only for those predisposed to have anxiety and depression and anger and PTSD issues and alcohol and addiction issues. It's people that have, quote, lived otherwise normal lives up until now. But given the circumstances, given the mandatory quarantine in a lot of areas, given the social isolation, especially for those people who are living alone, you're starting to see this manifest its way into mental illness. And it's no joke. This is a real thing, and it needs to be addressed. And if you want to address it, there is a service called BetterHelp, HELP, that I have been using for the last, 6 months at this point, before all this started. And I found it very helpful before, really finding it helpful now. I actually have been taking medication in addition to going to my counselor at BetterHelp. And I got to tell you, the medication I think is helping, but I don't think I'd be nearly as in such a good place now or in a better place now if I didn't have this other component of it. What it is counseling for licensed therapists, licensed counselors that you can initiate online from the privacy of your own home, chat sessions, video, call sessions. It's an amazing platform.
Awesome. So in addition to being an amazing platform, there's also a small benefit if they go to a specific link. They can save some money on their first month, correct?
Yeah, and that first month is going to be critical, folks. Like you're not going to know really what you're in for, especially if you haven't done counseling or therapy before. If you go to betterhelp.com/SinCast, you get 10% off your first month. And that's not insignificant. So if you go to betterhelp.com/SinCast, you will get a discount on that first month. Don't let the cost deter you, though. If you do have issues paying for this, they will work with you. So even if that's first and foremost on your mind, go ahead, start the process, and they will work with you. So there's really no excuse. If you need this right now, and God knows a lot of us do, if you need a service like this right now from the comfort of your own home while you are at home, this is the time to do it. BetterHelp.com/SinCast. 10% off that first month. Take advantage of this, guys. If you do feel like you need it, it has been life-altering for me. I've gotten a lot of support from these guys. Jeremy has been like my mental health Sherpa, guiding me through some of the ups and downs of the process itself. There's a lot of work, man. And just as the last personal aside, my therapist last time said, "Man," because I've come a long way, but I've done a lot of work, and I don't really give myself credit for that because I've gotten help along the way from her, from my psychiatrist, my wife, my family. And she was like, "Well, no, you deserve some of that too, because trust me, I work with a lot of people, and they are not doing what you're doing. They're not taking the initiative, and it's because it's hard to do, especially when you're almost paralyzed by anxiety. So there will be some work, but it will be worth it, especially when you come out the other side. Trust me. BetterHelp.com/SinCast. We've talked about it a lot, but do it. Do it. Do it.
Then we have, so you wrote down Braveheart as sort of a cheat.
Yeah.
Okay.
I literally had already written it down, and I'd written down so many movies that I was like, I'm not going to erase any of these things.
Yeah. Okay.
Because mostly it is very, William Wallace is trying to free Scotland, but he's sacking England for the vast majority of the movie itself.
I believe this is one of the all-time, gives historians headaches movies, right?
Yeah.
Hardly any of this happened. And that's how like off it is. And I guess not very much is known really about William Wallace. So you can make whatever story you want out of this character, because there's still not very much known about him.
Well, it's actually cleverly referenced in the movie where everybody's spreading tall tales about him, where he's like,
yes.
I hear he's 7 foot tall and has ransacked a whole village by himself, that
he
kind of
shoots
thing.
Like lasers out of his eyes or some shit. I've seen Braveheart a million times. This used to be one of those movies that like it had it on Laserdisc. I used to watch it on Laserdisc all the time. But yeah, this is if you're looking for historical accuracy, you're not going to get it here. Some of the things in the movie have a basis in truth, but they're not like how really everything went down. What do we think about this movie today? It's 25 years later.
I haven't watched it all the way through in maybe 15 years, and I'm not sure I want to. Mm-hmm. I think it would be a little bit of a slog for me to get through. I remember really liking it when it came out, but I bet it hasn't held up very well for me.
I love it. I love it just as much as I did the first time I watched it. Even with all the baggage that Mel Gibson brings to it, this movie is one of the most perfectly made movies I've seen, even though it's long. Even though this poor Sophie Marceau at the end of the movie is basically a proxy for his long lost love. I absolutely adore this movie. I could watch it a million times more.
I could too. I like if you pop this in, I would immediately get back into the familiar rhythms of it and just watch it to the end, because I mean I may be in the same boat as Jeremy. It may have been 15 years since I've seen it all the way through. But before that time, I saw it probably a good 20 times. I mean, it was really like a lot. But yeah, I agree with you. As long as you're not considering it a document of any sort,
right? Sure.
If you just watch it as this is an action movie about oppression, basically, then you're going to have a good time with it and everything. Mm-hmm. It's just that, yes. And yeah, Mel Gibson brings that problematic baggage now. It didn't when the movie came out, but 10
this
years
was his
later,
first directorial effort, right? Which is ridiculous, because at this point, you'd never seen, and now you see it all the time. You've never seen battle scenes like this before.
No.
Not only the carnage, but the scope, the scale. You talked about the Crusades movie, the King's Speech, or what was it called?
Kingdom of Heaven.
The Kingdom of Heaven, yeah. So how they gave the strategy and like what they're going to do before they do it, so you kind of have an idea of what they're doing. They do the same thing in Braveheart, where he's like, take the left flank, or say you guys pretend like you're running away, and he's like, what is that going to do? He's like, do it and let the English see you do it. Mm-hmm. And once they do that, then they flank them, and it's just so cool.
It's funny. This is when he's like, "Let the English see you do it." They'll think we ran away. Yeah,
And I don't think anyone, even people who are still vocally against Mel Gibson for the problematic stuff, denies that he's a great director. Apocalypto was incredible. And Hacksaw Ridge has battle scenes, once it finally fucking gets there, has that battle scene that it blows Braveheart battle scenes out of the water in terms of the expertness behind the craft. And he's still making the Passion of the Christ Resurrection, and he's attached to a Wild Bunch remake, both as director. So I guess I'll have to make up my mind before those films come out whether or not I want to support. And I've gone, I've run both ends of that spectrum. But
same
anyway.
here. And I know that's that's off-putting for some people who have already made their decision and everything. But some of us out there are just kind of like, I think we can separate the things, but like at the same time, you're also, do we give money to this? Do we, it's hard to really pinpoint. Plus it's our jobs too.
Yeah. Also, Braveheart was not his directorial debut. The Man Without a Face was his directorial debut.
Which was, that wasn't bad.
It wasn't, but it was so just Hallmark cheesy to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one where he's teaching poetry or something to some kid.
But it inspired that famous song, Man Without a Face.
yes, it did. Famously inspired. On to Bridget Jones's Diary.
Oh, that chick.
Yeah, Renee Zellweger.
That was a big scandal when she got cast in that role.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Because she was not British.
Right.
Well, she's still not.
That was always a weird thing. That was something that you would see quite often back in the day, though. You'd see Renee Zellweger. You'd see Gwyneth Paltrow as Emma and
Sliding Doors.
Yeah, Sliding Doors, all that, so it's pretty common, but I guess in a beloved book or something like that, people feel like it has to be a certain has to be British if in the book she's British or whatever. I'm not really that type of person on those type of things, by the way.
No.
Once the book is sold and it's become a movie rights thing, then it's up to the director to.
Sure, although this book was a massive hit in England, even more than it was here. I think it would be similar to casting one of those 3 Harry Potter kids, casting an American there. I think there would have been a similar uproar there, but the quality of the film probably would have been affected.
Well, and there was a little bit of uproar, a tiny bit of uproar about Daniel Kaluuya in Get Out.
Because he's British?
Yeah, because people like Samuel L. Jackson believed that this is a uniquely American experience and not around the world. And Daniel Kaluuya had to come out and say, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Awesome. I'm glad he did.
I haven't seen Bridget Jones's Diary in forever. It's been since it came out, so I don't even remember the story. I do remember. Is it Colin Firth and Hugh Grant?
Yeah,
eventually.
And this is the only one of the 3 that I've seen. There's a baby, and then there's like a breakdown. Bridget Jones's Edge of Reason. That's the 3rd one.
Edge of Reason. That sounds like a Tom Cruise sci-fi movie.
I know, right? It does. No, she's working. She's like a working professional. I think she's in a TV studio or something like that. And she is. I think the reason the book caught on so well, she's a very Ally McBeal type of character. She curses, she smokes, she drinks too much, she makes mistakes, she fucks a bunch of guys. Right. And like and at first she's kind of unapologetic about it. She's like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I don't have my life together, whatever. And then she starts saying, you know what? I'm going to try to get my life together. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop drinking so much. And I'm going to, keep this diary, like a Julie and Julia type of thing. Mm-hmm. And she ends up, I think, being kind of inspired by the Colin Firth character in the first place, who is the good fit for her. And then Hugh Grant, I think, is the almost John Hamm in Bridesmaids type of thing, where like he's super sexy and like he hits all the buttons that he needs to hit, but he's bad for her. And
one of them's the prime minister, right?
Yeah,
definitely. And she keeps making these mistakes. I think it's a really engaging performance. I really like this movie.
I remember liking the movie. I just haven't. I don't think I saw Age of Reason. I don't think I saw the baby one. I think I saw this first one, and that's it. But
I haven't heard anything good about the other 2. But I haven't really heard anything bad either. I think if you like these movies, you're probably going to like both of those too.
Yeah. Then we have Cars 2, one of the biggest blights on Pixar's, list of movies.
God.
This is where they decided. See, now the first Cars, I feel like that was like perfectly okay. It was definitely not Pixar's best. But then they were like, well, Mater's our real star here. Let's start revolving around him and I think that's a huge mistake. And they turn it into this British spy, James Bond type spoof,
yeah,
and everything. And it's just, I don't know, it doesn't work on any level for me at all. I really did. This was the first time I think I outright just said I don't like this at all. When it comes to Pixar,
and I think yes, this is a very, very, very bad movie. But in a weird way, Cars 3 is even more offensive, even though it's a better watch, because it's just Cars 1 all over again.
Yeah,
so
they
tried even less. At least 2 tried something new. It was just a really, really shitty try.
Yeah,
I tell you what, man. So this was 2011, and so this came out right before my kid was finally ready to start seeing movies and collecting toys. And because they had added so many different characters, he was obsessed with every part of this movie. So I watched this movie ridiculously a ton of times. And because it was so bad, it scarred me. I get repulsed if I see it on. Like, it was even hard to write on this thing.
Yeah.
We still have all of his Holly Shiftwell and fucking Finn McMissile and all those toys.
Well, that's you got to the rub of why Cars, they continued to make Cars movies.
Yep,
was because of that toy line, and you know, this was the first time I really felt like the whole enterprise, and I'm sure mostly powered by Disney's influence, they said, let's make Cars 2, let's make Cars 3 because of the toys. It was the first time I felt that real cynical about a Pixar movie was Cars 2.
Well, and I think to this day, Cars merchandise outsells all other Pixar merchandise. So yeah, I mean, I think it's clearly the most financially motivated until we get to Toy Story 4 area, where it's a much better product, but it's still financially motivated. But
yeah.
Anyway, Cars 2 sucks.
Yeah, Cars 2 sucks. Cassandra's Dream, Woody Allen. This is Woody Allen in the middle of this European phase that he has, where he's making everything not New York anymore. I actually saw Cassandra's Dream. It came out, I think we had it at Hollywood 27. I remember liking this. This was like a pretty decent movie, I thought. I mean, it's not great by any means.
I really like this movie because you can tell. Well, actually, you can't tell. Woody Allen has like maybe a 3 in a row regular narrative structure, and then one that's total allegory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the one in the Mist, Gorillas in the Mist, or what was there was like something in the Mist.
Gorillas in the Mist.
Yeah, there was a straight allegory about something. And then he'd do like, Manhattan Annie Hall and like, the relationship movies and things like that.
But he didn't do a movie. He didn't do Gorillas in the Mist.
No. Shadows and Fog is what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Shadows and Fog. Yeah. Not Gorillas in the Mist.
It's one of those things where you had started into something, and then when I heard In the Mist, I was like, wait a minute, what were you originally talking about now? I'm like, I'm lost now.
Yeah. And then he did Match Point. I think he did Vicky Cristina Barcelona. And then he did this, Cassandra's Dream, which is a total allegory. It's a Greek mythology thing of this boat that's essentially cursed, that leads to crimes and misdemeanors and murder and what is killing your brother? Fratricide? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what it's.
But it's played out really, really well. Ewan McGregor's great. Colin Farrell is great. Who were there? 2 girls. Oh, girls. Their girlfriends. Haley Atwell and Sally Hawkins.
Yeah.
Haley Atwell, is she the one that married Bieber or
That's Haley Baldwin.
Yeah.
Haley Baldwin.
Yeah, Haley Baldwin. And Haley Baldwin is not Alec Baldwin.
It's not. No, but it's Stephen Baldwin's daughter.
It's Stephen Baldwin's daughter.
Yeah.
What?
Which means her dad is Cray Cray.
Yes.
Anyway, this is a nobody talks about this. Even Woody Allen people don't talk about this movie.
Yeah, and it's weird. I said Hollywood 27, but this came out in 2007, so I must have seen it. I must have seen it on like cable or something then, because I definitely saw this, and I remember Ewan McGregor and Colin Farrell, and they're like this. This movie again is another one of those kind of, it's darker than Match Point is even. I think.
For sure.
Woody Allen is definitely in a different phase here. Another problematic guy. Of course, we can't talk about these movies anymore without there being somebody problematic in it. But
you know why I feel more comfortable about talking about Match Point, Blue Jasmine, things like this, is that he's not inserted into these things. Woody Allen, when he does insert himself into especially later day stuff where he's like the mentor or whatever, you just know, and this is after all that stuff has come out, where you know it's just indulgence. It's just arrogance. It's like, fuck you, I'm going to be in my own movie. This movie is less a, quote, Woody Allen movie and more of just a good narrative and a good story. Same thing with Match Point and for Vicky Cristina Barcelona. I think that helps.
Barrett jokingly puts Chunnel down on the list. I can't even remember what that's from, though.
It's from
Seinfeld.
Yeah, it's from the movie phone episode of Seinfeld.
Oh, okay.
Where Kramer gets the call and he's like,
"Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie you want to see?"
Yeah, I remember
Chunnel.
I remember the Rochelle stuff and all that, but I didn't remember the other movies that they had thrown on there. The next movie is Clockwork Orange. Stanley Kubrick.
There it has that on his wall behind him.
Poster behind him that has signatures and everything. I've read the book of this. I have seen this movie many times. What do we think about Clockwork Orange these days?
Have you seen it recently, Chris?
Probably been in the last 2 years.
What do you think about this?
I very much like Clockwork Orange, although this is one of those movies that I feel like, much like Gibson did with Passion of the Christ, like I've got to show you how bad things are. I've got to show you how bad everything is so that you'll really get it, and you'll know that this guy needs to go through the things that he goes through in this. So they show in Clockwork Orange, like, like a couple of awful rapes, like just awful. And it's hard to watch, man. It's really hard to watch. I don't know if it's a sign of the times or what. Like if I had watched this movie back in 1971, would I have been like, oh yeah, totally, just would have been going with the flow? Or is it now that I'm in 2020 or whatever, is a lot of the things affect me a lot more when I see them. So a lot of that stuff. Now, I think this is just such a unique story though. And so well done. And Malcolm McDowell's so great in it.
He goes for it.
Yeah, absolutely. The movie itself is great. I actually saw this when it had a special screening in New York. I saw this on a big screen.
Really?
Yeah. So I really like it. I think that whole thing, the experiment that they do on that, it's got a name.
Oh, like what is that?
Something I don't know.
Ludovico technique, yes.
Yeah, Ludovico technique. It does make you question whether something like this is morally correct, even with the worst person that you can possibly put into it. It does have a weird kind of, you do go through this whole thing where you're like, you could be of the mind where like, fuck this guy, whatever happens to him is okay because he did a lot of bad stuff before all this happened. But like, it really is just downright dirty, this technique, man. Mm-hmm. And I think you could also argue that it doesn't even work. I think it works in the movie maybe for a bit, but by the end of that movie, you swear to God he's about to break again. Like before the movie goes to credits, he's about to break again.
Yeah.
And you could say that he's just scared not to do the things that he loves doing anymore because he's psychologically prevented from doing it, which is that the same as deciding not to do it and having a moral center not to do it? It's got a lot of questions like that.
It does.
That are important to ask, because I really don't think that in the end he's learned anything. I just think he's scared to do anything by the end of it.
That's the whole point, is that he has this physical reaction when he sees a naked woman or when he sees violence, to where he has this revulsion. It's a physical response. And that doesn't change your psychology. That literally just changes how you react to something, because it's a total aversion therapy, right? It's to not get sick. I have to not experience this. And it's not that he thinks it's wrong. In fact, in the omniscient narration, he says, like, I got excited for the old in out, that kind of thing. But then, friends, this revulsion started in me tummy and that kind of thing. And it's not changing his mind. I think you're totally right. I think it's not changing his mind. It's just a physical response. I don't think you can change like that.
When this movie, Kubrick famously took out the last chapter of the book. And I think the last chapter of the book is I can't remember exactly what the last chapter of the book. I think the last chapter of the book sort of explains more about how bad this technique is, and I don't think it's a happy ending. I'm trying to remember if it's a happy. The ending of the movie isn't happy, really. It's just, I mean, he's being told to because the people realize that he's been through an ordeal, and now people are feeling sorry for him. They're trying to get him. They're trying to reverse this technique, and by the end of it, where he's got that imagery of the topless woman on top of him and that fantasy and everything, that ending tells me that he's about to break again, and just, he's going to just do it again. I think that's kind of maybe what the book was getting at too. But I can't remember that last chapter. It's been a long time since I've read it. Try reading that book sometime. It's like a puzzle sometimes, because you got to figure out what the slang is and everything. There's a lot more. Yeah. There's a lot more slang getting thrown around in the book.
Jeremy, did you like this movie?
No, but I only saw it once in college, and I was not ready.
Yeah.
I will revisit it at some point, just because it deserves to be revisited. But I saw it before. I think I had really just become a movie fan and go into the movies. And I was not a film buff. I couldn't appreciate this movie at the time I saw it, I don't think.
Yeah. The movie also sort of explores, like, if you're just in the wrong place, the wrong time, that for him, Alex, he gets put in prison for what he does. Meanwhile, his friends, who did the same terrible shit that he did, end up being cops, which I think is even scarier and more frightening to think about. In this whole thing, where, like, they were not only not thrown in jail, but they were rewarded in the end once they turned a new leaf. And it's questionable whether they even did. They just became law enforcement. And that's a hell of a statement that is being made there by that movie, and I think by the book itself. On to Closer.
Ooh.
You guys love this movie.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't even know where I'm at. I know that the Clive Owen thing with Jude Law, when they're having that back and forth, I love that shit, but I haven't seen the movie in forever.
I think it's 4 amazing performances, but this movie is depressing as hell. Like, I don't know if any of these people are good people. Who do you argue? Maybe Natalie Portman's character.
Yeah, Natalie Portman, I think, is still on the innocent side by the end of this movie.
Well, she's the most innocent of all of them, but I can't back Julia Roberts in this movie. I can't back Jude Law, and I definitely can't back Clive Owen.
Clive Owen's presented as the hero, though, you know?
He kind of is, but it's just, this movie depresses the hell out of me. It's like, oh, you fucked my girlfriend. I'm going to go fuck your girlfriend. And then it's just like, anyway, excellent performances. I don't want to dog on the movie. I think it's pretty good. It's hard for me to root for any of them.
It's funny. Actually, he doesn't have sex with Natalie Portman. He just tells Julia Roberts that he did. And he tells Jude Law, I think. So, in a sense, Clive Owen is the most innocent guy in this movie. You know, what's funny, what starts this whole chain of events off, it's so out of nowhere. Everybody seems to be in a good place. Jude Law and Natalie Portman are both young and on the move and making the scene. I'm talking like a 1970s gangster or something like that. And then Clive Owen and Julia Roberts have this wonderful, mid-30s stable lifestyle. Their house is gorgeous. He's an optometrist or something like that, and she's our ophthalmologist, and she's an art curator. And then all of a sudden, he comes back from a business trip, acts completely normal, goes to shower, comes back down, and he's like, I fucked a prostitute while I was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, she's like, why did you get dressed like all the way after you took a shower and you just got back? It's late. And he's like, because I was afraid you might want me to leave when I tell you what I have to say. And he's like, I fucked a whore. I think he literally says it like that. And in the initial bit of it, she's like, all right. She's like, well, that's pretty rough, but and then somehow it spirals into that whole I've been seeing this Jude Law character, and then it goes further and further and further, and the whole scene is almost unbroken. And it's what you're saying. It doesn't make you feel good about any of these people, but it's a brilliant performance. You can tell it's very stage-like. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Yeah, like I said, I don't remember much about it, but if you want to get interested in watching closer, just watch. Well, actually, that would be a lot of spoilery stuff, but Clive Owen and Jude Law, 2/3 the way through the movie, that conversation that they have is fucking classic.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
And you've got the Natalie Portman in the strip club scene, which is fascinating on so many levels, and not only because Natalie Portman is stripped down to her skivvies. It's a conversation. He's not there for sex. He's not there really for pleasure, even though that's the tagline. Like, I want you to bend over and show me your ass for my viewing fucking pleasure. He's there to get his kicks of being superior to her, not a sexual way. It's a very psychological movie that I just absolutely adore.
There's a similar, not similar, but it's interesting watching strip club scenes where the guy goes in not for the kicks of it, but has to talk to the person. The movie Exotica does this. Bruce Greenwood goes in to see Mia Kirshner, and you're like, okay, what's going on here? He doesn't seem to be turned on by this. He's just kind of talking to her. What is this all about? It's always just an interesting dynamic because it doesn't equate in our heads like you would go.
Well, like Big Short, where Steve Carell is just like, can you just stop dancing for a second?
I'll
pay you. I'm still paying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We move on to the Cornetto Trilogy.
Yeah, I just combined all those guys.
Yeah, you have Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and the one that we always mess up, The End of the World, or whatever the fuck it's called.
The World's End.
The World's End. It's The World's End.
At World's End is a Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
Yeah, At World's End is a Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and This Is the End is a James Franco, Danny McBride joint. Yeah, Shaun of the Dead, man. This is where Edgar Wright, he made these movies that were making fun of like he makes fun of zombie movies in Shaun of the Dead. He makes fun of cop movies in Hot Fuzz. He's making fun of the Wicker Man essentially in the World's End, or Hot Fuzz. He's making, but in the World's End, he's making fun of alien movies. But he has a certain, you can see that he loves these movies. And I think that's what a lot of these kind of movies, the reason why they're so successful and they're so fun is that not only are we making fun of them, we're also glorifying them, or not glorifying them, but we're praising them, or we're showing appreciation for them at the same time.
It's sort of a fine line that Galaxy Quest walks, right? Where we're both, we adore this thing, but we're kind of poking fun at it too. It's a little more broad with the Cornetto stuff. But if you watch Hot Fuzz and don't think that he loves cop movies, you're insane. Even though he roasts them in a few hilarious ways. So yeah, I think it's pretty clear that he's both having fun, but this is the stuff he loves and probably grew up on.
Yeah.
Am I the only one? You guys love Hot Fuzz even more than Shaun of the Dead, right?
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
I think that's the typical opinion. For whatever reason, maybe it's because I watched it more times. I love Shaun of the Dead a little bit more than Hot Fuzz, but they're right up there together because Simon Pegg plays such a different character in both of them. Nick Frost basically plays almost the same character in both of those. But Simon, I didn't say Simon Cowell, right? Simon Pegg. Okay. Simon Pegg.
By the way, Simon Cowell was in the new Scuba movie. That was great.
Lovely.
Oh, Jesus.
Simon Pegg, plays such a slacker loser that gets it together, but kind of gets it together. Still has some of his tendencies at the end of Shaun of the Dead. And he's such a hard ass in Hot Fuzz that it's just it takes a while to wrap your mind around it. Saw a different Simon Pegg performance recently that kind of blew my mind. Actually, he's got a lot of chops. He's got very versatile.
Yeah. I love these. Man, Shaun of the Dead has that great one shot with Simon Pegg going to the store, and he's just oblivious to all the zombies that are around. And there's the part that always makes me laugh. It's a small moment, but he goes into that convenience store. And he goes past some aisle and he slightly slips and catches himself and then doesn't even bother to look at what he slipped in. Just keeps going to get his stuff. And he's, that he slipped into a big puddle of blood or something.
Yeah.
But it only dawns on him, I think, once he gets out after he buys the stuff or whatever.
Yeah, he's drinking a slushie or whatever it is and looks around and
he looks to his left and looks to his right.
Uh-huh.
Shaun of the Dead is great. I think both of those movies are up there, but Hot Fuzz, for some reason, I always gravitated to that one more, and I can't remember. I don't know why, really. But I love those, and The World's End, man, has just never caught on for me. I've seen it a couple of times, but it's never gotten to that point where I'm like, I really love this. The thing for me is just the alien, the body snatcher thing in this one. It doesn't appeal to me, and it just falls flat. There's not as much inventive things in that movie than there with the other two. It's something where he's showing appreciation for those movies, but he's not really hitting his target very well, I don't think. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what the it's just not as interesting as the other two.
Mm-hmm.
But we love some Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
On to Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yes, and even though a lot of these take place in Narnia, they're outside of London.
Narnia.
Okay, so Voyage of the Dawn Treader and Prince Caspian came out, right?
Yep.
And I have not seen those for sure.
So Prince Caspian came out. Obviously, the Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe is the one that everybody knows from that C.S. Lewis. They know you have 7 books. Everybody knows Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. But then after that, it gets sort of on shaky ground. Not many people hold Prince Caspian in high regard, or Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And the series is essentially out of order and doesn't really tell a straight story and everything. So like when you get into, I think it's The Magician's Nephew and all those are like, I don't know, they're not prequels or sequels, but they're like wedged in between other earlier stories. And there was what's the one where I think it's the two younger kids are basically jumping in water and it's portals, and they see the sort of the creation of the White Queen and everything, and that's like a big prequel story, but it comes like 4 or 5 books into the series. So like, I don't know, the Prince Caspian came out and it didn't do nearly as well as Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And by the time Voyage of the Dawn Treader came out, it wasn't even Disney making those movies. It was Fox. So, of course, Fox ends up being Disney anyway. But, Disney just, gave the rights to Fox, I believe, on that third one. And Voyage of the Dawn Treader didn't do anything. So they'll never get through that 7 books because it's not like Lord of the Rings. It's not like that. It's got 1 book everybody knows, and the other 6, I don't think they can really make into something that's people really want to see.
And that first movie was fine.
Yeah,
did you like it? It was fine. Yeah. It's okay. It's fine. I loved those books growing up. And I never read Lord of the Rings until they were making those movies. And then I went back and read those books. But the movie's, inferior to the Lord of the Rings movies, and is, clearly a studio just trying to find a similar property to cash in on they didn't go the distance that, Peter, what's his name, went. And they didn't have the passion, that he had for it either. But also another thing that hurt these movies is the distributors changed ownership rights like 2 or 3 times. Like the Dawn Treader, whoever made that movie is an entirely different company than who made the first 2 movies. They got those rights bought out or whatever. So there's some inconsistency there as well. But I think I read that they're going to try and wrangle this all up and reboot it all again. So
I'm not surprised.
No, me neither.
But it seems like they should probably just go the Netflix route on those, more than try to come out with 2-hour movies every single time and try to make Lord of the Rings or whatever. Of course, Lord of the Rings itself is going that Netflix route at some point, right?
Amazon, but yeah. Amazon, actually, yeah. I think that one went on hold. I think. I don't know. Maybe that's the Game of Thrones one. I'm all fucked up in the head.
Mm-hmm. If there's anything that you want to get out of this podcast is that Jeremy is fucked up in the head. That's
exactly.
The next one is Croupier. I've never seen Croupier.
Oh, really? This is your movie.
This is probably Clive Owen's coming out party, I believe. This is the one that got him major recognition, but I've never seen it.
Oh man, you would want to have sex with this movie. Like just put your penis into it and thrust repeatedly.
Right?
Have you seen this, Jeremy?
What? I've only done that for 10 movies, so it better be really special.
Take precaution. So Clive Owen is a writer, and because he can't finance his book, he takes a job as a croupier. Now, a croupier it's not a dealer, right? It's like a step above a dealer. It's like a stage boss. He's to assist in the conduct of a game. So he's not actually doing the dealing and stuff like that. He's making sure that all the bets and the payouts are correct and all that stuff. And this is Clive Owen at his most attractive, basically, right? Like Clive Owen has this charm about him that you see in Children of Men and in Closer and things like that. And he's suave and everything, but he's still kind of a bit of an awkward writer. He gets recruited by Alex Kingston. Do you remember Alex Kingston? She was in ER. Mm-hmm. She was the British
She's on Doctor Who.
Yeah. She was the British doctor in ER. And boy, she sure does have a big old naked scene in this, where that I may have watched a lot.
Oh, easy.
Because she's very pretty. But like, she seduces him and makes him want to crime, makes him like get into a thing where he's figuring out if people are counting cards and maybe calling them out and that kind of thing. And basically so that she can make a profit, she's going to share it with him. It has such a satisfying ending. It's such a great performance. Alex Kingston, I don't know if I mentioned that she was naked in this. And it reminds me in tone, for both of you, actually, you guys would both love this, of the Cooler. It's certainly not that story because he's being manipulated, but he's not, it's not the same dynamic, but it's like the British version of that sort of tone. I think you guys would dig it. It's 1998. Go watch it for sure.
Yeah, it's a movie that I know I want to watch, and it's every time it comes up, it's like, oh yeah, that one. I still need to see that. I need, so yeah, I'll watch it.
I really don't think we're going to get through all of London today.
We are not. One more I'm getting through before we cut it off, and that's The Crying Game.
Oh yeah, Finish Up the Seas. Yeah,
I only saw that once.
Seas. Yeah, I saw this. This is maybe my first Belcourt experience was The Crying Game.
Boy, The Crying Game is not really about what you hear about. It's about like all kinds of crazy stuff, like the IRA and the secret drop-offs and killings and murders and Stephen Ray's. And
I can't believe I saw this movie at 15, guys. I saw this movie at 15 years old. So yeah, it starts off with, it's like this. There's some sort of gunfight or battle going on. Forrest Whitaker tells Stephen Ray that he really wants to get back to the love of his life. Tells him all about this his girlfriend, and so after, and I guess spoiler alert, even though the movie's 28 years old, Forrest Whitaker dies in this gunfight or whatever happens. Stephen Ray goes to talk to this guy's girlfriend and tell him what happened and everything. And he ends up falling in love with her. But there's a surprise in this whole thing.
Dum, dum, dum.
Of course, I don't know if do we even need to bother with the fact that, do we need to not spoil this?
Oh, no, I think we can spoil this. I think it was spoiled for me when I was 13 years old.
Yeah, Jay Davidson, everything about, and I don't know if he uses, I don't know if it's if he uses he or she pronouns or they pronouns.
She. But I think in the movie it's she pronouns because she is in the process of transgendering. I don't know if there's surgery or anything like that. But I honestly don't remember much about that part of the movie.
Stephen Ray falls in love with her. Does
yeah.
not know that she is going through all of this until they are about to get it on. And then the big surprise via nude scene occurs. And so like he has to deal with these feelings that he had before all of this, and does he still feel the same way afterwards, and all that. So anyway, that movie is good. It's that surprise overshadowed probably anybody's opinion of what that movie, a real opinion of that movie is.
Yeah, I bet it would play. It won a bunch of awards. I don't know if it got Oscar. Yeah, it got Oscar nominations for best
nominations,
best director, best actor. Best supporting.
Neil Jordan won for Best Director.
Did he really?
He got nominated for Best Picture, got nominated for Stephen Ray, got nominated for Jay Davidson, who they put in Best Actor category, and a lot of people were wondering if that gave away the surprise. I guess it did.
Oh, yeah.
Because they had to put him in the Best Actor category. And then, actually, wait a minute. No, Neil Jordan won for Screenplay. Won for screenplay, did not win for director.
Oh, okay.
He won for the screenplay for some reason. Yeah, I was like, no, that was Clint Eastwood's year. But yeah, best actor in a supporting role, and then he was nominated. Neil Jordan was nominated for director, and it was nominated for film editing. So it had gotten quite a few Oscar nominations.
I'm just wondering if it were the present day, given the success of something like Euphoria, that quote surprise would be less of the talking point that it was, because it was a punchline of every late night comic, for months. And
I don't think it'd even be filmed this way.
Yeah.
In the movie itself, it's almost a punchline because of just the way it's dun dun dun. She's a man,
There's a quick zoom on the dick.
yeah. So I don't even know if this movie would be made the same way today, but I haven't seen it in forever.
Me neither. But I remember enjoying the rest of the story, because the love story is the love story. He does eventually reconcile his feelings and say, well, I love this woman, so we're just going to have to make it work. And like the whole IRA and cops and robbers type of thing did really appeal to me. And Stephen Ray is really good. I love me some Stephen Ray.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's great.
He's good.
Jay Davidson went on to would go into play Stargate after this.
Huh.
But I don't think he played in much of anything else.
I was going to say, and then disappear completely after that.
Yeah. Kind of, it's tough when you're in a movie like that, and that's your big reveal, and then now everybody, that's all people can think of. It's almost a weird typecasting. It's a don't know what to really call it, but
yeah, he was only in those two movies, and then 2 years later, in '96, he was in a documentary, and then in 2009, he had a role as a Nazi photographer in something called the Braveheart Project. But yeah, that's his entire acting career right there. Those four things.
Yes, like Jeremy alluded to, we're not going to get through this today. We probably won't even get through the rest of them in the next episode, and there might be another episode after that even.
But this is so fun. Many movies.
It is fun.
Like how many times have we talked about The Crying Game, or even Cassandra's Dream, or there's just even About a Boy, a movie that I really love. Like this gives us a nice respite of branching out a little bit more, and I'm really excited about some of the ones coming up.
This has always been the point for road trips for me, is that we get to talk about movies we don't get the chance to talk about a lot. It also brings up movies that you want to see that you have forgotten about, or may want to revisit, or any of that. It's, when we're doing our normal things, we're always going after those, the best, the favorites, the blah, blah, blah. We forget those ones in between. That's why I like the road trips a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's going to do it for this week. Keep going to Facebook go to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. We also have a Cinemasins Twitter, music video Sins Twitter. We're on SoundCloud. We are on Discord. If you want to get on Discord, go on to the Reddit page and find the link on the right side, or you can go to Facebook and private message me, and I'll give you a link there. But that will do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
Totally had a possum in my house the other day.
What the fuck? How did he get in?
Pretty sure it was cats.
Oh no!
So maybe a week ago, I went outside because Domino had not come back in. Everybody else was in, and come out, and I see Domino on this one side that he doesn't really hang out a lot on, and he had cornered this possum.
Oh my God.
And I walked in there, I walked towards them, and the possum, I didn't know that possums had a hiss.
Oh my God. They can be mean.
Oh, and yeah. He's cornered, and Domino's just going over there. I think he's just going to playfully bat him or whatever, because he's not really going in for the attack. I just pick Domino up and take him back inside while this possum's sitting there. So a couple of days ago, I'm upstairs. I'm playing some poker online, and get done with that, and I walk down the steps. So you have Chester and you have Rip. They're like the cats that are inside. They're hungry. They want something. They start walking down the stairs, and then they stop at the bottom of the stairs, and they're just looking at something. And I see the shape, and I'm like, that fucking possum is inside the house right now. And he was playing possum. He was just sitting. He was just lying there, and I saw it. I was like, I'm definitely not going to pick this thing up, no matter what. I'm going to try to sweep him out. And so I got the broom. I started sweeping the possum, and I had read that when they play possum, they're unconscious for a while, but this woke him up. So like he got up and he went behind my entertainment center.
Fuck.
And I had
this is a horror movie.
I had to pull out the entertainment center, and he had found this spot in behind it where like wires and all sorts of stuff go. So like I was like pushing the broom inside the thing. Finally, the possum was like, well, fuck this. I'm getting out of here. Got out, and the door is open. I'm like, okay, he can run out now. He can go outside. He doesn't go outside. He goes under the couch.
God damn.
And so I'm like sliding a couch. And I think this was on the same day I'd done my TV stuff. So there were boxes everywhere. There were like just everything was in disarray in my house. My house looked like, a disaster area. He went under the couch, and finally I pushed him to a point where he finally went into one of these boxes that I had downstairs, and I picked up the box and put it outside. And so now I've got to figure out, do I need to call animal control? Do I need to, obviously I can't let the cat stay out past a certain period of time, or else they'll want to like pick up the possum and drag him in here, and who knows what else. So.
Man, I'm surprised in your area. I felt like you're urban enough. A possum is kind of a surprise to me. Maybe a raccoon, but I've
had one in my bathroom before in West.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We had
How
to
did
get
it get in?
I don't know. We were renovating at the time. I had to use those rose gloves where they go up to like the elbow, and they're like Gore-Tex. I got in that, and like this super high tech like body armor. And we went in with and it was hissing the whole time. This thing was particularly mean. And we went in with a Rubbermaid, and it was like 2:00 in the morning. And we finally got it. It was struggling and everything. I drove it out to like the woods and let it out.
This possum is not aggressive at all. He's pretty sweet, but like I've seen him hiss.
That may be it, man. Maybe somebody's feeding his ass or something.
It could be. During the fire thing that happened, I can't, and that might have been the same night too. There was a lot going on the weekend. That fire happened, and everybody was like sort of walking out and like watching the fire and everything. Of course, I was keeping my appropriate distance, but like one of the women who lives like 2 houses down was saying that her cat was a stray that she just basically fed 8 years ago, and it just became her cat after a while and everything. So who knows? There might be somebody like, oh, what a cute possum, and throwing food everywhere for it and everything. I don't know.
Huh.
I'm not calling you fat. I was calling you
big boned,
not John Boyega.
Mm-hmm.
I am festively plump.
Yes. I'm festively plump.
I'm not fat.
Did you ever see the one where like Cartman was out of their group for a while, and then they got somebody to? It's that one where they're doing the downhill race stuff. Did you ever see that
ski
one?
Episode?
No, it's like a 4-man sled thing that they were going up against the girls, and the girls kept calling them, like dick punchers and cock punchers and all this other stuff, and saying we're going to beat you in the sled race and all that. They get Cartman out, and they put some other dude in, and this dude, it looks just like Kyle and looks just like Stan. He's just got a different hat on or whatever. But they start calling him fat and start doing the same thing they did with Eric Cartman. And like by the end of it, he's like, stop calling calling me fake, motherfuckers. You know. It's funny. I wrote a Team America outtake for Rick and Morty, the latest Rick and Morty, because there's a part where Morty walks to a gorilla display in a zoo and just throws himself in there, and so like the whole thing where he's telling that story to what's her name, where he's like, I was at the zoo doing some acting. And my brother
doing some acting,
and I fell in, and my brother came down to save me, but he forgot that he had blueberries in his pocket, and the gorillas just went wild.
Did you see we did the Baby Shark video for MVS?
Oh, Jesus!
I haven't seen that song. I haven't even heard that song.
You would have no means to hear it if you've been around any child over the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. You would have heard it, just because it's. What would you compare it to? It's like, what does the fox say except times 5 billion?
Oh,
it's sung in every school, every house. Like, it gets stuck in your head. It's got 3 or 4 billion views on YouTube. And
damn.
it's like a minute and 50 seconds, and I got 36 cents out of it.
Jesus.
And I went hard on it.
Did you fuck start it?
I fuck started it. I fuck started Baby Shark. I fuck started it.
I fuck sharks.
There's one where the mascot, the fox, is riding one of the sharks. And I put in an outtake of Brick from Anchorman going, when he's riding the bear at the end, he's like, Ron, I'm riding a big furry tractor.
Yeah.
But like, all the comments are just like, man, this is awesome. I love you guys roasting them. Mm-hmm. And like, even when we done like Blackpink and NC-17 or whatever the fuck that ones are.
Introducing the new underage pop band,
right?
NC-17.
Well, that's named after a rating that they can't get into.
Well, Noah Cyrus, when she was 17, had a music video that had imagery of something that said NC-17 on it. I was like, what? And I was like, oh, it's Noah Cyrus 17. But
Jesus.
Yeah.
I love Mike Myers, and basically any comedy that he's in, besides like the Love Guru, I'm on board with, even the really shitty stuff. But like, I tried to make it through Wayne's World 2 the other night. Because I have fond memories of it. I have fond memories, but it's just so one note, and it's the exact same beats over and over from the first movie. And I'm like, oh, this is hard.
Right now. Just stabbing me. Just physically stabbing me in the heart.
Oh, no.
Now.
Oh, no.
Like, I can understand, like, just not liking it, but not to the point of, that.
I didn't want to, because, like I said, I love his style of humor. I love, the environment and all that stuff, but like,
Wayne's World 2 is definitely not as good as the first one.
No, Chris Walken's playing the Rob Lowe character. Like, he's trying to get his girlfriend back again. He's trying to do something to improve his life. Like, there's all the same characters. Like, oh my God, it was just, they even do the We're Not Worthy to fucking Aerosmith instead of Alice Cooper. I'm like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
This is exhausting. Mm-hmm. I got exhausted watching Wayne's World 2.
If you had seen Wayne's World 2 before you saw Wayne's World 1,
yep,
a la Horrible Bosses for Jeremy, you might like that one better and think the first one is derivative and hitting all the same beats. So there.
I like the what is it? The Harry Shearer thing that's in there. I like that a lot. He's like, we could tell you anything. Like, you're a total tool. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
And we're very proud of it. It took a lot of work, and he's like, work is hard.
Work is hard. Yeah, that is pretty fun. He's like Handsome Ken or something like that. And there's like a really handsome dude that comes out to greet them. And they're like, oh, you're Handsome Ken, right? And he's like, no, it's Harry Shearer.
He's the one that's Ted McGinley is the guy who's like, comes on and he's like, ah!
Yes, there are some funny parts in there, but
yeah.
It was,
and it's also got the Graduate spoof that's funny in it. Like the whole him trying to get to the wedding. Has a Terminator 2 thing in it. There's the point where he goes to the gas station and he asks the guy for directions, and he's like, I'm sorry, but can we get a better actor for this?
I know it's a bit role, but like because when you first see the guy, you're like, there's so many cameos in there. That guy's probably somebody, right? And so you're kind of looking at him, you're like, no, and then he addresses the camera, and they literally put Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
He's like, I once met a girl on Maple Street.
And Mike Myers is like crying at the end of it, and then finally he gets to the wedding and that whole Graduate thing and everything. So anyway, yeah, there's some really shitty parts of Wayne's World too, but I always remember those really good ones.
I'll tell you what, Kim Basinger looked like she was 35, like from the period of 21 to 40.
50.
Yeah.
To 50. Yeah. It's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She always just looked older, like more mature. I don't know what she had done. I mean, maybe it's the Baldwin effect.
Yeah, 9.5 weeks. I think she's only like 24 or 25 in that movie.
Looks 35.
She looks 35. Yeah, she's always just been, she's always feel like a woman. She's always been a woman.
I think Will Smith is starting to wane. I think he's his Big Willie is starting to wilt.
What are you talking about?
I don't think his star power is that Jiminy Man, fucking Spies in Disguise. I guess Spies in Disguise was a decent hit, wasn't it?
I mean, it was a decent hit, but we should be looking at Aladdin first.
Yeah.
That obviously Aladdin is not all because of him, but
right.
It certainly helps that he was in that. And then Bad Boys for Life was a major hit that came out in January of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Those other two, Gemini Man, that had the potential to be something really good, but I don't know what was going on.
I'm just saying that he used to, in my estimation, he used to be able to open a movie just on his own. And yep. I don't think he can do that anymore. Unless he's got a franchise like Bad Boys or Disney behind him.
That wilted a long time ago. I mean, he did 7 pounds and that was sort of the beginning of the end there. But yeah, there was a point where stuff like I Am Legend and Hancock and all those movies were going to be big because he was in it. But 7 pounds was the beginning of the end of that.
Did you ever see 7 pounds?
Yeah,
yes.
It's the most depressing movie you will ever see in your fucking life.
It is right up there with My Life and shit.
Mm-hmm. Does his wife dies, right? Or his kid dies?
I can't remember who dies, but he
I think he's I don't even want to go back, but it's all apologies. It's like a movie full of sad apologies and making amends. It's like Step 9 or whatever it is, the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because I guess he's responsible. He's the guy who was responsible for the wreck that touched all these people's lives.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so 7 pounds, I guess, is a pound of flesh for each person or something like that. But he's actually the one taking the responsibility to go and make amends and everything. And of course, by the end of it, it's God damn it.
It's no good. Pursuit of Happiness is just okay. Concussion is bad, but he's good in it. But yeah, he lost that mojo a long time ago.
After Earth.
I think he's going to get it back, but I don't think it's going to be soon.
One thing that he's been doing too is he's really embraced all these social media platforms, and he does all these YouTube things, and he's sort of started building another new kind of audience now, and people are rediscovering him who weren't old enough last time. So, he may never be one of those guys that opens up, a movie to $100 million opening or anything, but he is going to be viable for a while, and he's past 50 now.
Yeah. He's going to start getting chances, I think, to really act where he doesn't have to necessarily force it like 7 pounds and pursue it. Like the whole project isn't necessarily about, I'm an actor, but because he can't do the action stuff anymore or isn't seen as an action star, he's going to get, he maybe not Tarantino, but he's going to get one of those like John Travolta in Pulp Fiction roles where he like does something a little different than we're used to seeing, and it revives his career.
Well, remember, he had a chance to do a Tarantino. He had
he did
he had the Django Unchained, and then
yeah.
I think if he had been offered that now, he would jump on it. But back then,
Probably.
He was so worried about his image that he decided to not do that. And it's good to have principles, but at the same time, I think it would have launched him a little for another.
It's the part where in That Thing You Do, where Jonathan Sketch gets mad at the rest of the group. And he's like, I guess I'm alone in my principles. And he storms out of the restaurant. And Steve Zahn is like, there he goes, off to write that hit song, Alone in My Principles.